can make the choice to really change your life.
Michael was a 10.
He is the best. I was actually moved. He was wonderful.
There are three aspects to behavioral change. Number one is self-awareness. Number two, self-reflection. And number three, self-management. First of all, we have to be open to become aware of areas that we may be imbalanced in or need to work on. And then once we have done that, then we can really reflect on specific situations and circumstances to say, well, you know what? Here's what I said and here's what I did in this specific situation, and here's what I could have said and could have done to yield a different or a more desirable result. And then that leads to step number three, which is self-management at the point of contact. When we are aware of areas that we need to work on behaviorally, and we've really reflected on that, when an opportunity comes up in the real world for us to change our behavior, we can choose to do that. And that is one of the most powerful aspects of the human experience. Having the capacity to change our behavior to yield a different or a more desirable result. And when you start any kind of behavioral change, it's going to feel weird because you've never done it before. You are engaging in something that is completely different than your normal mode of operation. Decades-old brain research says that it takes the human brain 21 days to develop a new habit because your brain is literally rewiring itself, creating new neural pathways, new neurons. And when you start to engage in positive behavioral change, even though you may feel off balance and a little bit uncomfortable, the good news is you're going to feel a tremendous sense of satisfaction and gratification from that behavioral change. It's about having the confidence to engage in something that we know is right for us. I learned a very important lesson about confidence many years ago with my old business partner, Ted. We were actually out in San Diego at the time. We had worked with a client. We were coming back from the meeting, kind of driving around the city, and Ted said, hey, would you mind if we went to this old historical hotel? I think it would be great to see and you'd really enjoy it. I said, that sounds like a plan. I love to see new things and experience different sights, and certainly I enjoy history. So we arrived at the hotel, we walked in, and it was absolutely beautiful as he had described it. And we went around, looked at the walls. They had some of the history of the place on the walls. And then we came up to this huge, beautiful, grand staircase. And it had a great big sign right at the staircase. And it said, "Pardon our dust while we beautify our hotel." And without even flinching, Ted just started walking up the stairs. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm going upstairs." "Why?" I said, "Well, we can't go up there." And he looked me square in the eye, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Yes, we can. Just be confident and act like you belong there." So I swallowed hard. We both headed up the stairway, and we got an opportunity to see parts of that historical hotel that very few people get to see. And we acted like we belonged. There was a construction crew actually working on one of the rooms, and Ted, having been a general contractor, literally walked into the room and started giving the guys tips on things to do. But the interesting point is, not one person even questioned our presence there. Now, I'm certainly not recommending that you breach any kind of rules or etiquette or things you're not supposed to do. What I am saying, though, is that I learned a couple of really important things about confidence. First of all, if you don't believe you belong somewhere, no one else will either. Confidence and arrogance are very different. Confidence is believing in yourself and your background and your education and what you've accomplished, and it's also believing in your own potential while at the same time respecting other people. Arrogance is disrespecting other people, thinking you're better than others, and just feeling as if you're entitled to something without the hard work that it takes to achieve a level of success. When we are confident, we're believing that we deserve to be where we are. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you have in your mind even one small hint of doubt that you maybe shouldn't be where you are, if there's one hint of doubt that you don't deserve to be in your position, or that you shouldn't have achieved the success you have, then other people are going to doubt that success as well. So I challenge you to give yourself the credit you deserve for what you have been able to accomplish in your life up to this point. Believe in who you are, what you've accomplished, and you may not have all the answers. And you know what? That's okay. Because when you are confident in who you are and what you've done, and you believe in your right to be somewhere, it always opens you up to the opportunity to learn. And the most confident people in the world are the people that have the most humility. Many years ago, I had an opportunity to go to Scotland with my wife. One of my dear friends was having his 40th birthday party at the time. And he had been a professional tennis player and then gotten into the world of business, had become quite successful, met people all over the world, and he had invited more than 200 people from a multitude of countries around the world to a Highland gathering for his 40th birthday. So people from all over the world, including my wife and I, went up to the Highlands of Scotland for a 5-day celebration of his 40th. It was quite spectacular. He had every day planned out with different things to do and different activities. And I remember one day, well, it would be a day, at least for me, that will live in infamy. Now, let me give you a little bit of context. I am not a good golfer. Okay, so let me give you a little deeper context. I'm not only not a good golfer, I'm probably the worst golfer in the world, or at least vying for that title. So I hadn't even been on a course in years, hadn't touched a club, hadn't hit a ball, and part of this Highland gathering, this celebration of his 40th, was that bunch of guys, there were probably, I'd say 50 plus gentlemen, were all going to go out and play a 9-hole golf course at Ballingallick Castle in the Highlands of Scotland. It was quite spectacular. Well, we were all divided into foursomes, and I thought that it would be a normal situation. Everybody just goes up to the tee, nobody's watching, there's no audience. No. All of the people that had come for the party were watching people tee off. And Justin, who was my friend, liked to do things in a very grand fashion. So he introduced everybody. And from Orlando, Florida, Michael Stahl. So I go up to the tee. I'm being watched by a couple of hundred people now. And I remember, hadn't hit a golf ball in years. Okay, so I'm trying to get some decent form. And I'm looking at the golf ball. Everybody's silent, just like a big tournament. All right, and there we go, and back, and completely missed the golf ball entirely. Justin says on a microphone, can you believe it? He had a microphone. Oh, that's a great practice swing, Mike. Great practice swing. You're okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm thinking in my mind, please let me be able to hit the ball. All right, so going up here. All right, I got miss it again. I am mortified. Now, by this time, people are trying to be polite, but they're starting to snicker just a little bit. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, all right, okay. Now, you've missed the ball high twice. So if you've missed the ball high, you're going to have to adjust and go much lower. All right, so here we go. Third time's the charm, right? All right, here we go. We're going to adjust, and whew, 2 feet of priceless Scottish turf flies out into the fairway. I am absolutely mortified. My foursome sounds like a joke, but it's actually the truth. I had an Irish guy, a Scottish guy, an English guy, and me. The Scottish guy worked for the golf course and said, we like to pick that turf up and replace it. So I walk out into the fairway, pick up the turf, put it back. Finally, on the 4th try, I actually got the ball off the tee. And what was interesting is that even though I was embarrassed, I wanted to just go back to the clubhouse, I kept on going. And those guys were great because they really helped me. They taught me some things I didn't know about a golf swing. And it got to the point where, believe it or not, I was actually hitting some pretty decent shots. And by the 9th hole, I even outdrove a couple of the guys. The idea is that whether it's in your life or whether it's in your organization, things when you're going through change, or even when you are experiencing things that are challenging, things have to get worse before they get better. Why? Because there's always a learning curve. So if you can stay the course through behavioral change, both individually and organizationally, what is going to happen is that eventually, even when things get a little bit worse, the curve goes down, things are going to click, and you're ultimately going to get better, and you're going to achieve more results than even before you made that positive change. So stay with it. Have the kind of perseverance that it takes, both individually and organizationally, because on the flip side of the coin, if you are ever experiencing a change and things get better at first with no learning curve, no growth, no course correction, you can absolutely positively guarantee that if they get better immediately, they're ultimately going to get worse. So we have to kind of go through that mess of change. You can just call it a great big mess of change. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. And yet, when we are experiencing new things, we are learning and growing and developing and going to a new level in our lives, both personally as well as organizationally.
Really go full out. Just bring on the challenges and jump in.
I walked away with the power that I can make a difference in my own life, that I can lead it, that I can make a difference and do what I want to do.